Right, let's get started. Now, the Office of the Auditor General says it will be probing the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation's decision to expend oil funds on activities experts say fall outside its core mandate. Now, the GNPC has confirmed its board's approval of 1.5 million Ghana cedis to the Ochehene, Mwetio for repeating, 120,000 Ghana cedis to the First Lady, Rebecca Akufo-Addo's foundation, 550,000 Ghana cedis to the Economic and Organized Crimes Office, EOCO, among others. The Auditor General, Daniel Domilevo, has been raising concerns about these transactions. He spoke to Daniel Daze on the Super Morning Show just this morning.
I'm not very sure whether EOCO has collected money from them or not. But being an oversight institution like mine, I would say no, I won't go near it at all. There is no way that GNPC can come and say, Auditor General, get 20 Ghana cedis, and I will accept it. Because, you see, as an oversight body, you must not only be independent, but must be seen as independent.
Okay.
So if an oversight body is partaking in the booty, and goes back to provide oversight, who will trust them? They may even do professional work, but they've compromised, jeopardized their independence, which I think has to be avoided. I'm not very sure whether they collected it, so that's why I say I'm assuming what you are saying is correct. But I think that is not a way to go. For instance, if I'm partaking from the money in GNPC and I go back and audit them, will you believe the findings that I bring? Will you say that I'm very independent in the opinion that I may be expressing? That is why we should not go there. Let me make a quick point here. The board has right to make decisions. But one of the things the board must have to understand that they can only make decisions within the ambit of the law. The Constitution, which is the supreme law of Ghana, under Article 178, says you can use public funds only the way that is prescribed or allowed by the law. So maybe during an audit, we interrogate to find out whether the laws of GNPC allows the money to be used that way. If not, then I think it may not be a right thing. So yes, there are administrative structures like boards and management, etc., who take decision. But one thing I would like to advise them about is that every time they should try and make sure they are within the law. If the law does not permit it, then I think it's a no.
If my understanding of the law is that I can use this for cultural diversity or I can use it to promote Ghanaian lifestyle in some way, then I can go ahead and make such a donation.
So if I think I'm promoting cultural diversity by giving the money to my family or friends for personal business, should that be allowed? So that is why the Supreme law of this country, the Constitution, has put in place the requirement that the court or the Supreme Court interpret the Constitution for all of us. So if in the course of our audit, for instance, and we don't agree, we are going to disallow the expenditure and surcharge and tell you to go to court and let's go and get interpretation from the court. Because if we allow individuals to interpret the law, I think it's going to be an anarchy. Everybody has got his selfish interest, and for that matter may say that is national interest. In fact, when people are appropriating public funds to their personal use, they see it as serving national interest. So that is a bit disturbing.
So this issue has come up in Parliament. My colleague Parker Wilson joins me on the line with details of what the minority has been saying regarding this GNPC matter. So Kwesi, tell us, bring us up to speed. What exactly has been Parliament's concern? Hello, do we have Kwesi Parker Wilson on the line?
Hello, Kojo.
Yes, there you are. So why don't you bring us all the way up to speed on this?
Okay, so before the business of the House today, we had the opportunity to speak to the former Deputy Power Minister, John Jonapor, who is also the Member of Parliament for Yape Kusegu, and he raised concerns about the GNPC engaging in some sort of corporate social responsibility And for him, it is quite worrying that GNPC would be supporting Ochihene's planting, the tree planting project, the afforestation, because he says that the GNPC has some funding gap or deficit, 1.2 billion cedis, and that they need to focus on how to address that issue instead of supporting the First Lady's the foundation and that of the Ochene as well. So essentially what he sought to say was that it's a wrong move, and that for the minority and especially members of the Mines and Energy Committee, they are going to haul the Energy Minister before the House and ask him questions as to why GNPC has been allowed to veer off its core mandate or what they are expected to do. And then again, he hinted that GNPC will be presenting or submitting their 2020 budget before the committee for approval. And for the minority, they don't want any composite budget. They want a detailed one, a comprehensive one, which will spell out specifically what they'll be seeking to expend those monies they have indicated in the budget. Because the reason why they want to do that is because the GNPC has been misusing the taxpayers' money, and that for them, if the GNPC fails to provide the specific details in the budget, they will stay off from its approval and let the Ghanaians know that these were the reasons why they decided to exit or not support the approval of GNPC's budget. And if you come to the House just a while ago, and Kojo, you remember that on Saturday, the Information Minister announced what he says, the good news to Ghanaians, and that of especially the farmers, cocoa farmers. And he talked about the $600 million loan facility to boost cocoa production. And you remember that the Information Minister said that that loan facility has already, Cabinet has approved the loan facility, and that they are waiting for parliamentary approval. Today, it came to the floor of Parliament. The Finance Committee submitted a report to the House indicating that at the committee level, they have agreed to the loan facilities, and all the utilization of the loan process in that report have been agreed, and they're submitting the report to the House. But unfortunately, the minority and the ranking member of the Finance Committee, Kesal Ato Fossen, raised a number of concerns regarding the utilization of the loan proceeds. Now, the point he made was that the 600 million would be misapplied, and that they are not going to approve the loan facility, and they want the government to go back and restructure the proceeds, the use or the utilization of the proceeds as far as this loan is concerned. And let me just walk you through a few of the things that he talked about. The ranking member on the Finance Committee talked about how 4.2 million Ghana cedis will be used for biometric registration of farmers. And then again, almost about 7 million Ghana cedis for promotion of consumption. And if you go into the details of the report, it talks about how the Cocoa Board intends to provide chocolate to school children and also prisoners, those inmates, and the military as well. And for the ranking member, it is quite worrying that such an amount of money will be used for buying of chocolate or providing chocolate to school children, and also making cocoa drink for the inmates or those in prison. Then and again, another issue he raised about that they were going to use over 10 million Ghana cedis for database, farmers database. And that for him is also a worry. And so for them, the loan facility that the government has come to Parliament to seek approval is not going to be used for its intended purpose as what they've stated in this report, but rather they are going to use it to finance their campaign in 2020. So for him and the minority, they are writing to the lenders of the loan and ask them to renegotiate the structure, the financial structure of the loan facility, because clearly, whatever it is in the report and the document, according to the minority, will be misapplied or misappropriated, and that they wouldn't that to happen. At the end of the day, they are seeking the loan between 1 and 3 years. But the government is seeking for a drawdown between now and 6 months, which they think that there is something fishy going on. They are suspicious of the government, and that today on the floor, they blocked the approval of the loan, and the Speaker, for the First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joe Sewusu, deferred the ruling. And tomorrow, we are told that that is when they will decide whether or not to approve the loan. But on the floor, actually, earlier, the Speaker asked for the voice votes, where they asked whether the loan should be approved or not. Well, the majority said yes, the minority said no. The Speaker ruled that the yes have it. That is where the minority protested and raised all the concerns. And that was when the Speaker deferred. In fact, the Member of Parliament for Asawasi, Honorable Muntaka Mubarak, challenged the Speaker's ruling that if you look at the members they have, the minority, I should say, and that of the majority, they are more than the majority in the House. So there is no way that the majority will have their way in the voice voting. So he quoted a provision in the Speaker's ruling and even called for a head count so that they will know that clearly the minority have won. That was when so they should just end proceedings when they return.
Right, we must apologize there. We've got a bit of interference in our signal. We'll see if we can reconnect to Parliament for Kwesi Parker-Wilson's narrative of today's events. Meanwhile, there have been calls for a review of the GNPC law so that it would be able to play a more meaningful and beneficial role in the sector. Head of Programs at Institute of Fiscal Studies, IFS, Nicholas De Heer, says a review of the current law will make GNPC more focused. He spoke last week during the Joy Business Oil and Gas Forum.
And then go to some concluding thoughts. The founding statute of GNPC is an old law. PNDC Law 64. GNPC was enacted it was established in 1983. And this law mandates the corporation to, quote, undertake the exploration, development, production, and disposal of petroleum. The law permits GNPC, unquote, the law permits GNPC to, again, quote, perform any other functions necessary or expedient for the purpose of attaining objects and carrying out its activities. That sounds like a blank check to me. I don't know about you, but in the past, GNPC has engaged in wide-ranging activities. And here I point to 3 types of activities. 1, non-petroleum related investments. So GNPC holds equity stakes in loss-making investments. I repeat, loss-making investments like Prestia Sankofa Gold Limited. This is a mine that was shut down in the last quarter of 2016 and continues to weigh heavily, its liabilities continue to weigh heavily on the finances of GNPC. For example, in 2018, GNPC set aside nearly $25 million to pay off the mine's liabilities. Why is that the case? Then there are the quasi-fiscal transactions and activities. And here we are referring to those activities that are required to be performed by government. But it would appear GNPC is playing that role very actively. So GNPC constructs roads, advances loans, in some cases advancing loans to government, as happened in 2014, when GNPC advanced a loan of $50 million to the Ministry of Finance. The third category of non-core activity is corporate social responsibility. Now, nobody argues against corporate social responsibility. CSR is a good thing for any company. I'm sure the banks here do CSR. But when your CSR budget is so huge that it in some cases overtakes your personal emoluments budget, then there's a problem.